10 days into COP-26, China and the U.S. announced a joint declaration to fight climate change. The two have agreed to work together to limit the global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius within this decade.
In the area of climate change, there is more agreement between China and the U.S. than divergence, making it an area with huge potential for cooperation. So we hope this joint declaration can make a China-U.S. contribution to the success of COP26.
Both countries also recognized the destructive nature of methane emissions to world temperatures. The two countries will exchange information on methane control and facilitate joint research on challenges and solutions.
It commits to a series of important actions, not in the long term, not way out in the future, but now during this decade when it's needed. And I'm pleased to announce that we will work together to limit methane. Methane emissions, a greenhouse gas up to 80 times more destructive, more potent than CO2.
China and the U.S. also agreed to improve policies on efficient balancing of electricity supply and demand and encourage integration of solar, storage, and other clean power solutions. They aren't the only parties that struck a deal. Another major agreement was reached, with 100 world leaders pledging to halt and reverse deforestation and land degradation by the end of the decade. $19 billion will be allocated, including $1.7 billion for indigenous people. The backers include Brazil, Indonesia, and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Together, they account for 85% of the world's forests.
There have been other declarations to halt and end deforestation. This, I think, is probably the most comprehensive and diverse set of leaders. Also encouraging to see the private sector also supporting this. But, we really need to see action and urgent action.
The U.S. and EU also announced a global partnership to cut methane emissions by at least 30% this decade. Dozens of nations have joined the pledge. Another agreement saw more than 40 countries commit to move away from coal. But the world's biggest users, including China and the U.S., did not sign up. Meanwhile, a pledge to provide $100 billion a year in climate finance to developing countries by 2020 has not been met. That target is expected to be reached by 2023, 3 years behind the timetable set in 2015 under the Paris Agreement.